Hi folks, welcome back to another video. Okay, so this time we're going to be doing something a little bit different to our usual sort of characters. We're going to be doing more of a creature this time. This is Battlecat from Masters of the Universe. Now I have printed this guy in 1/8 scale and he is hollowed pretty much throughout the whole thing. It went together really easily, so this is just the raw print. I haven't actually done any tidy up yet and I haven't primered him. So I'm going to go off and do that after I finish this video, but I just wanted to show you how he comes out. It holds together really well. So the head is detachable, that is all one piece, and there's a lot of detail there all around the mouth, which I'll leave that off. You can see the claws, and you've got the Castle Grayskull base. Now the saddle is also one solid piece. See the detailing there. So having these pieces separate will make it nice and easy to paint. The body is in two sections. You can see there's the join there. I haven't actually glued this together yet, but the saddle hides all of that anyway, so it's really good the way it's been designed for the cuts. The tail is also a separate piece, and that's about it. So there's not many pieces on here. Now I printed this 1/8 scale and I literally took it to the maximum that I could fit on my Saturn II build plate. I think it was this piece that was the biggest on the way the angles worked. But yeah, I managed to get it on there. The base is in two pieces. I have glued the base together, and there might be a little bit of gap filling just to take care of, but on the whole it went together pretty well. And yeah, I think this should be a really nice little model to do. Obviously I've done He-Man already in a previous video, and the two bases actually kind of connect a little bit. So yeah, once this guy is done, I should have a really nice finished diorama of the two. Okay, I'm going to take this away. I'm going to clean this up, sand it up, and spray some primer on it. So the first thing I want to tackle is the armour. Now, because this is quite a large area, I'm going to actually do something which you've never seen before, and that's an attempt to use an airbrush. So I'm going to use Gemstone Metallic by Army Painter, which is quite a nice red. I've used it before, it always had good results. Now you can of course just brush it on, which I've done in the past, but this time round I'm actually going to try my luck with an airbrush, and we will see how I get on. And here's the final result after all that metallic gemstone has been applied. Now I must confess, I did actually end up doing a lot of that by brush in the end. After my airbrush clogged for about 3 times over, I just gave up and did it by hand. So yeah, if anyone knows of a decent airbrush that doesn't clog up all the time, then please let me know. Anyway, next step along. So I'm going to carry on with the armour. This time I'm going to take some corn red and I'm going to start painting in the seat. And I'm also going to paint in the strap that goes around Battlecat's body, the same colour. I'm going to follow that with an all-over wash of Nuln Oil. So this is a black wash, and this is going to go over all that texture on the seat and the strap. And try and be careful not to get it on to the metallic parts already painted. I'm now going to apply an all-over dry brush using some Screamer Pink, just to go all over the stitching and all over that seat. This will just raise up the colour just that little bit. I'm now going to take some Runefang steel. I'm going to paint in all the scars and battle damage. So there's quite a lot to the armour, quite a lot of big pits that have been sculpted in. So you can see a rather large one here. So I'm just simply going to run that silver into those grooves. I'm just going to repeat this process everywhere I see these marks. So nice and easy and quite effective as well. Time to actually start painting this tiger green, and to do that I'm going to use some medium olive by Vallejo. This is going to take a little while because there's quite a lot of area to cover. Obviously going to cover the body and also the face. I'm now going to go completely over all that green using Athena Camo Shade, which is a dark green wash effectively. So you can make up your own if you need to be. I seem to have quite a lot of this wash to hand, so I'm just going to use this. And we're just going to try and work it in all over the body and try and make sure that it goes into all those recesses. Okay, so I've given that wash a little while to dry, and you can see that there's some nice darkened recesses now across the whole piece. So what I'm going to do is a dry brush. I'm going to take some Goblin Green, and this is a slightly yellowier type of green. And I'm just going to dry brush across the entire thing just to catch the edges and brighten it up a little bit. It's now time to give a tiger his stripes. Now to do that, I'm going to start off using some yellow ochre. This is quite a dark yellow, and so it's got better coverage than a lot of yellows have. Now you're just going to have to freehand this. There's no markings on here to sort of follow or anything like that. So you're just going to have to basically go around and do what you think looks best. I'm going to start from the top and work my way down. So again, I think probably the best way to do this is just to start gradually painting out a line and then essentially making it a bit thicker in areas and tapering it off as to whatever looks best. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky because obviously you're fighting against all the texture of the fur already, so it's not something you're going to be able to get a particularly straight line on, but I think that's okay. I think that works in its favour to a degree. So I'm just going to go around the model, as I say, working on all these stripes. So that took a little while, but I've managed to put on all the stripes where I think they should be going. I used a little bit of reference material online to see where sort of Battlecat's stripes generally are. His stripes aren't particularly realistic. I was going to look at sort of like, you know, real tigers and sort of see the patterns of those, but yeah, Battlecats are much more simplified, which is just as well really. So that's looking a little bit fake at the moment, so what we're going to do, exactly how we did with the green fur, the next step is we're going to put a shade over it. We're going to use Cassandra Yellow. Now this is a sort of a, despite its name, it's actually an orange rather than a yellow shade. But that's okay, because that's kind of what we want. Again, Battlecat's stripes are more of a orangey look than strictly speaking yellow. So this will tint them and also give a little bit of sort of difference, a little bit of texture and tone and realism, which is what we want. So let's start with this one and just basically paint in what we did on the yellow. Don't have to be too neat because it will blend a little bit the two colours of the green and the yellow together. But you can see that we get a little bit more contrast. So it's just a case of going over each one like this, making sure it doesn't pull too much. And already you can sort of see that it's changed the overall colour and added a little bit more realism. We will come back once this is dry and we will sort of blend the colours together a little bit more. So to bring all those colours together, I'm going to do one final dry brush over all of the fur, going back to that yellow ochre colour. Now this is going to be fairly light dry brush, so the idea is this is just to sort of blend the green and the yellow together a little bit and just to give a little bit more detail, a little bit more brightness to the fur overall. But obviously I don't want him to look yellow, I still need him to look green, but yellow is a highlighting colour for green, so there is a method to this madness. It's Rhinox hide next, and this is for the pads under his feet. Although admittedly you're probably not going to see most of this, but I want to paint it in anyway, just for completeness. Next up, I'm just going to take some black and paint in all the claws. It is on to the base next, which is a rather large piece. So what I'm going to be doing with this is dry brushing all the way through. It's going to be rocky, so it's Castle Grayskull look I'm going to go for, so obviously sort of a dark green look. I've sprayed it black, which means all my shadows are already painted in. So to start with, all I need to do is do a large dry brush of Caliban green over the whole thing. And for this first dry brush, I can go pretty heavy, because I want to try and get some decent coverage to start with, and probably as I go up to the colours, and I will use some brighter colours, brighter greens, I'll do a lighter dry brush. So at the moment I'm just trying to get a decent coverage down for my base layer. And the next dry brush is Wire Flesh. Next up is Medium Olive. It is Goblin Green next. Now, as I'm going up the vibrancy of these colours, I'm applying slightly less each time, being a bit more selective as to where I'm going to place it. And then lastly, Moot Green. Now this is the most vibrant of all, so I'm going to be more sparing with this than I have on any others. Mixing Moon Yellow with some Deck Tan gives me a pale yellow, and I'm just going to use this to start blocking in the eyes. I'm now going to take some deep yellow and I'm just going to add that to the eyes again, just to bring up the intensity. So that first layer was just to give me a nice base layer for this next yellow. Going to take some Cassandra yellow now and put that across each of the eyes, run it across the whole eye, and make sure it runs into the recess all around the eye, just to give a little bit of shadow in. I'm going to take some Screamer Pink again, only this time I'm going to paint in the inside of the mouth and the tongue up to the first sort of layer of gums that goes around the teeth. It's going to be a little bit tricky trying to get my brush in here, but just a case of being patient, taking your time. That Screamer Pink is then followed by an all-over wash of Reikland Flesh Shade. So all over the tongue, all over the inside of the mouth and the gums. After that wash has dried, I'm going to go back in with some Pink Horror and do a dry brush all over the tongue and those gums. It is Bone White next, and this is for all across the teeth. I'm going to use Rhinox Hide again, this time for the gums that sort of go around the inner gums, if you like. So you've got the pink ones that go around the teeth, and then you've got these ones that sort of go around the outside of that. I'm sure there's some technical name for what that is on a cat, but for me, I'm just going to call it the outer gums. Going back to the teeth, I'm going to take some Agrax Earthshade, which is a brown wash, and cover each of those teeth all over with this wash. And after that wash is dried, this is kind of what you're left with. Now I have gone back in with a touch of that bone colour again, just to do a little bit of highlights around the teeth here and there, just where that wash was a little bit too heavy. So that is the head finished. So with that done, the model is now completely finished. So it's not going to take me too long to put this guy together, and I'll come back and show you the finished model. So overall, I'm really happy with this model. It was a nice model to paint. Fairly simple. The only thing is the stripes were a little bit tough to do. Because of the texture on the fur, it kind of fought against the brush a little bit. So you have to kind of bear with that and just sort of stick with it. Otherwise, it's pretty simple. Nice chunky pieces to paint. So nothing too complex. I suppose really from a technical point of view, the mouth is kind of the more detailed area. But again, it's fairly simple stuff really. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. So what I'm going to do is bring in He-Man, because he kind of connects to the base on this one. So if you watched my previous video, you'll see why I made this guy. Now, as I say, the two bases do actually slot together, like so. And then if we can pan back, we can see the final piece together. And I think you'll agree that looks pretty good, the two next to each other like that. In terms of scale, they look pretty good. It looks like He-Man could legitimately ride Battlecat. He's big enough to do so. Yeah, I think that looks really nice, the two. And now the trick is with the base as well, is to make sure you either paint the bases at the same time as each other, or understand how you did the paint job, so to make sure that they match. You don't want any discoloring there. To give you a little peek behind the camera, I actually did paint the two bases at the same time to make sure that I did actually match that okay. So on the whole, this is a really nice model to add to my growing collection of Masters of the Universe, and I will be continuing the set later on down the line. For my next video, I think I'm going to do something a little bit different to Masters for a change. Might revisit one of the lines I've done before. So if you would like to see that video, then please subscribe for future content. Please like and leave a comment, it all helps. So until then, take care everyone, and I will see you in the next one.